It's 4:37 a.m. in the morning. Your child is awake. Not, I'll roll over and go back to sleep awake. They're ready to start the day. Meanwhile, you're standing in the hallway wondering, is this morning or is this still the middle of the night? If this keeps happening, it's easy to reach one of two conclusions. My child just doesn't need much sleep. Or somehow I've taught them to wake up this early. But what if neither of those is the real answer? Early waking isn't one problem with one solution. It's a clue. And the better we understand that clue, the better chance we have of changing what happens next. Hi, I'm Diane Luzny. I help moms of autistic children who have already tried everything to improve their child's sleep. Together, we focus on practical, science-based solutions that don't rely on more medication, expensive products, or adding more stress to your family. Welcome to the first video in this series about early waking. By the end of these 5 videos, you'll know how to narrow down the most likely reasons your child wakes up so early, and just as importantly, where to start. We're not trying to find the perfect answer today. We're looking for a clue. Because when you understand the clues, you can make better decisions instead of guessing. One clue at a time, one change at a time. Point 1. Is your child actually waking too early? That might sound like a strange question. After all, if your child is awake at 4:30 a.m., isn't that obviously too early? Well, maybe. But there are actually 2 different questions hiding inside that one. The first is it too early for your family? For most families, absolutely. A 4:30 start affects everyone's sleep, work, school, and ability to cope with the day. The second question is a little different. Has your child's body finished sleeping? Those aren't always the same thing. Imagine one child falls asleep at 7 o'clock and wakes up at 4. That's about 9 hours of sleep. Depending on the child's age, health, and individual sleep needs, that still might be too little sleep. Or it might be close to what the body currently needs. Now imagine another child. They don't fall asleep until 10 o'clock, even if they've been in bed for a while. They also wake up at 4. They're exhausted all day. Those children wake at exactly the same time, but they're telling us 2 completely different stories. The clock tells us when they woke. It doesn't tell us why. So here's a question you might try answering. Has my child's body finished sleeping, or has something interrupted it early in the morning? Point 2. What kind of clue is your child giving you? One of the biggest mistakes we make when we're exhausted is looking for one cause. Maybe it's melatonin. Maybe it's hunger. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's the sunrise. Maybe it's the bedtime routine. Maybe it's the autism. The truth is, early waking can happen for many different reasons, and several reasons can exist at the same time. Broadly speaking, the clues fall into a few groups. Some children simply aren't getting enough sleep, or their sleep schedule doesn't fit the amount of sleep they actually need. Some children have a body clock that believes morning starts much earlier than the family would like. Some are being awoken by something around them, especially during the lighter stages of sleep that happen toward morning. It might be sunshine, birds outside, the furnace kicking on, the AC coming on, a room that's become too warm, twisted pajamas, or a wet pull-up. Others are being woken by something happening inside the body. Pain, reflux, constipation, itching, breathing problems, medication effects, hunger, or needing to use the bathroom can all interrupt sleep. And sometimes the original reason for waking has disappeared, but the pattern remains. The body has simply learned this is when morning begins. The important thing to consider is this: is early waking a symptom, not a personality trait, not bad behavior, and certainly not proof that you've done something or anything wrong? So here's another question to consider. Which group that we just discussed sounds most like your child? You don't have to know the answer yet. We are going to explore each one over the next 4 videos. Point 3. Which pattern keeps repeating? When parents come to me, they're usually looking for the answer. But before we look for answers, we need patterns. Patterns are much more reliable than one difficult morning. For example, does your child wake at almost the exact same clock time, even if bedtime changes? Or do they wake after roughly the same number of hours of sleep? Does the waking change with the season, school days, weekends, illness, naps? Do they wake cheerful and they're ready to go? Or do they wake upset, uncomfortable, and obviously still tired? Each one of those tells a different story. Not the whole story, but enough to help us choose the next clue to investigate. Remember, we're not trying to find one magical answer. We're trying to narrow the possibilities. What you can do. For the next 7 days or more, become an observer instead of a fixer. Write down or make a mental note what time your child went to bed. About what time do you think they actually fell asleep? What time did they wake? Whether they woke cheerful or tired or distressed. Any naps? And anything unusual like illness, a late activity, or an especially bright or noisy morning or other special circumstance? But for now, try not to change anything. I know that's difficult, but it's much easier to spot patterns when we're looking at what normally happens. Of course, if your child is snoring heavily, gasping for air, showing signs of pain, or you've noticed a sudden change in their sleep, don't wait for a 7-day record. Talk to your healthcare provider. One thing I've learned over the years is that poor sleep doesn't look the same in every child. Some become clingy, some become hyper-aroused, some withdraw, some are recovering from a meltdown. Others look surprisingly calm, even though their nervous system might be working incredibly hard. That's why I created my free guide. It helps you recognize those 5 nervous system states and gives you practical ideas that match the child in front of you, not the child you wish they were. You can use it at bedtime, at 7:30 in the morning, or in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. You'll find the link below. Do you agree with me that 4:30 wake up doesn't tell us what's wrong? It simply tells us where to begin looking. If you do, then let's move on to the next question that parents ask. Should I put my child to bed earlier or later? The answer isn't nearly as simple as the internet makes it sound. I'll see you in my next video where we answer that question. Until then, to the best of your ability, sleep better, shine brighter.